This week, we hear about some terrifying sequels to some horrors.
Then our topic of the week is innovation. Does it make a game better? Does it make a game worse? We will discuss. I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast. The popular horror board game, Eldritch Horror, is receiving a new expansion. This third expansion in the line of the Eldritch Horror series is called Strange Remnants. In it, you'll be researching the odd remains of old civilizations such as Stonehenge, the Easter Island statues, to find out what's going on in order to prevent the horrible new Eldritch Horror, which is not a sleeping elder god or one from another dimension. It is in fact the alignment of the planets that will cause terrible drastic effects, which is by what is called, and I'm going to try to say, which we both tried and we're both terrified of saying, the Syzygy.
I think
it's
that's
Syzygy. Please, I'd love to hear
the Syzygy.
So in essence, you are actually fighting the universe.
That sounds terrifying,
but it sounds really cool because it's researching all the different weird, like you have to do the Easter Islands and stuff. And
I like that. I didn't know. I knew the cover had the Easter Island heads. Mm-hmm. And then they say that the big. I guess it's not a god. The planet alignment factors into the whole set, right? Like, isn't that like a big? That's like their big thing that all the stuff works around.
Yeah, I think one of the things is they make it so it's not more of just I'm fighting this enemy. You're fighting an event, which definitely brings up much more of a. I think it brings more of a horror because it's not something like we'll just kill it.
Right. Yeah. I like that. That's something different. Yeah.
But always, still falls in Lovecraftian.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the scariest stuff is the stuff that you can't kill.
So you must be terrified of the movie 2012 or the new coming out San Andreas,
or maybe other movies that we'll get to later on in the show. Before that, we have still some games to actually talk about. I think it was just last week, Portal Games announced a new micro game that we discussed. Well, this week they announced a new dice game that's going to be coming out.
They're just pumping them out?
They're rolling them out. It's called Rattle, Battle, Grab the Loot. It's a pirate-themed dice game, and it sounds really innovative, dare I say it. In the realm of dice games. The way it works is everyone has their own sets of dice, and each turn they give them to one person who rolls them all into a box. And depending on where your dice land in the box itself, as well as what face it has, you get different rewards, different things, and you're trying to get favor with the Pirate King. And in between rounds, you can also use your whatever you got from your dice to buy new parts for your ship. And there are actually cardboard pieces in the box, so you actually can build your ship, and it actually looks different depending on which parts you buy. So I love that idea that everyone has their own custom thing. Anyway, the game is going to be premiered at Gen Con this summer, and then it should be available widely in August.
So you definitely got to check it out.
I didn't even mention it's Portal Games, but it's Ignacy Trzewiczek of
two of your favorites already.
Yeah, exactly, and Robinson Crusoe. So I think that's going to be one of my.
Can you actually carry the ship into Robinson Crusoe? Like, here's my custom little ship.
He actually made a joke in the announcement that no one dies on any of these islands. The point, this is definitely one of a more broad appeal game, but they still said it takes between 45 to 90 minutes, so it's a dice game with a little more meat on it, sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds definitely interesting. Yeah. I'm sure everyone's going to love the customizing, and I do love, we've played other games, like if you recall Ninja Dice, where actually depending how and where the dice land and stuff made different effects, which is, it's a nifty little fun thing, and it's definitely a fun idea to think of, because then it's not just roll. You're like rolling like, okay, oh crud, like it's the right side, but...
Yeah, it adds a new element to it. That's really cool, yeah. Mm-hmm. What else you got for me?
Earlier you mentioned sequels to horrors, and what better true horror to board game lovers than a sequel for Ouija. That is correct. We are finally getting news about the Ouija sequel, Ouija 2. In this one, it's apparently a strange group of friends accidentally unleash some sort of evil that only they can seal. Totally original, innovative idea.
Not like the first movie at all.
It's slated to come around October 2016, I believe.
Yeah.
The 21st, if I recall. But, they could change at any moment. As far as I know, it's just Ouija 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no tagline or anything.
So do you think they would put the effort in to come up with a subtitle? Of course, we watched the first Ouija movie and reviewed it on this show.
We
much
did.
to our chagrin.
However, they got some new directing this one?
We don't know the director yet. The producers are all the same, but the writers this time around are the same people who wrote the movie Oculus, which we haven't seen but got actually good reception. So there's maybe a chance this one. I mean,
maybe that's why there's no tagline. It's actually just the remake.
Yeah, forgive us. It's got to be better, right? It can't be worse.
Oh, please.
Yeah,
okay. It can be worse.
It could be a lot worse.
Have you seen Birdemic?
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there's hope that
we will review that one too.
Well, now I hope they pump them out every year like Saw. So
is that gonna be every year just us? Years from now, roll for credit. Ouija 10.
Yeah.
The Return of Jason.
That'd be awesome. Ouija X in space with Jason.
With Jason X?
Yeah, with Jason X. Anyway, it was sort of a light on news week this week, which is why it's already time for our Kickstarter Pickstarter.
So my Kickstarter Pickstarter is a game called Gruff from Studio Woe. And before I go into what the game is actually about, the logo for Studio Woe should already give you a hint where it's going, in which it is half a goat and half a sheep sewn together.
I like it.
The game itself is actually you are a shepherd, a crazy shepherd, and you've decided, I don't know why, to mutate and bring your goats back to life using many illegal and probably very, very bad ways to mutate your goats and pretty much in essence make them want to battle other shepherds to prove you have the meanest goats around. So
an award held proudly by anyone.
Yes. So you each choose your shepherd, you and the other opponent, your opponent, and then you each have 3 goats. I think they correspond to the each shepherd, but I'm assuming that you could mix and match as much as you want. And the shepherds have 2 tracks. They have their life track, which obviously you can guess you lose when you hit 0 life. But they also have a crazy track, which depending on when you use your goats, you become crazier and crazier. Almost Lovecraftian in a way. And you actually can use certain cards only when you're crazy enough.
Great.
Now, your goats have 3 stats. Their meanness, which is pretty much their attack, how mean they are. They're weird, which tells you how crazy you get when you use them. And they're fat, which is their defense.
I like it.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
Mean, weird, and fat.
Yep, your goats are mean, weird, and fat.
That's what they should have called it.
And then, but it comes with a whole deck of extra cards. Like, it's not like you use all the cards in there. You actually build your own decks. And you have plenty of cards, so you can customize them in a lot of different ways. From what I can tell, it's going to be more like a living card game, not like packs, from what I read. I know the game itself comes with, I believe, 4 shepherds and 10 goats, or maybe 5 shepherds. They revealed 4 shepherds. I think it's 5 shepherds and
sounds like a good starter.
But there are more to come. They already announced. As of this video, I'm pretty sure they're at least halfway with more. The game goes for $25. Pretty nice. Oh, we should say all the numbers I said, the fat, the weird, the crazy. They have trackers for each thing on the cards. So there's nice thick cards for those guys. And you actually track them through
That's
there.
Good. Always a plus to have a good way to track things.
Yes. So it's not like each has 3 different dice, so you can.
Right.
They actually have numbers on the goat cards in life, and like certain things will act in certain ways. Like I remember one shepherd who was like a necromancer gets like a huge crazy bonus when you get his life low. Because, as soon as life, he goes, I'm crazy!
I like it. I mean, that's definitely one of the weirdest themes.
And, like, another goat, his name was, like, sounded like Grumpy. So, like, whenever you move him, because you can, like, move your goats around because they only fight the one in front of him, he doesn't like it, so he becomes meaner.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, it has a really great artwork. You barely recognize the fact some of these are goats. And that's how hilarious it is. The fact that I just want to know when they first came up with the idea, what should we do? I like goats, but they all look the same. Mutate them? I like where this is heading.
There it is. That was the recreation.
But it looked like a lot of fun. The artwork looks really cool. And a hilarious idea of using goats. Then just mutating them in order to make them look different.
And how much does it run for?
I told you, $25.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did.
Well, you can tell I'm paying attention. But no, really.
But yeah, a great Kickstarter. Cool if you like card games. If you're into Pokemon, you'll like this. If you're into just hilariousness, you'll probably like it because it's goats. I mean, you're fighting goats. And for $25, I think a pretty good price.
I think goats should be the new, forget kittens. Goats should be the new internet.
Well, they already are. The screaming goat.
That's true.
Oh, that's got to be one of them. They got to add a screaming goat.
All these goats.
Just one goat that's just...
So that is gruff.
Mm-hmm.
My Kickstarter Pickstarter for the week is called Mixtape. Not to be confused with Mixtape Massacre, which you did a few weeks back.
Or your own personal mixtape.
Right, which is available anyway. It's just called Mixtape. This is a super kind of light party game. Pretty different from Gruff and a lot of the games that we talk about in the show. It's
no goats?
No goats.
Oh,
well,
forget
maybe.
it then.
There could be.
Oh, there could be.
Okay,
I'm listening.
Explain. Basically, to put it simply, it's apples to apples. Where there's a card with a description on it, and everyone submits something, and then you vote on which one people like the best, or you could do it as a judge, or however you want to do it. But in this game, what you submit is a song. So the example they put on the homepage is a card might say what song you want to play at your funeral, and everyone using their digital phones or laptops or whatever. You could use like a CD if you wanted to. I don't know, whatever era you live in. Pick a song they think, and then you play a portion of that song. And if you want, you can add an argument to it. There's a lot of leeway for how you can play it.
I'm sorry, I'm just picturing it. Still apples to apples, similar. So when everyone puts their cards in the center, though?
Well,
so imagine everyone put some phones, and then someone just throws a computer in the center.
All right, there's no throwing in the center. You just take turns one at a time playing the song.
There's going to be that one person who always chooses the same song over and over. And it's going to be Don't Stop Believing.
Okay, well, they can't. They're banned from the group. You have to choose a new song. That's the new rule. But there actually are a lot of interesting variants and house rules that you can use. And there's also another deck where sometimes you might have to do an action, like you have to lip sync the song you choose or something. I think it's optional. But anyway, it just sounded like a fun idea. I like the idea of being able to use kind of it sounds like a great party game, especially with people who don't play games, and if you want to play some music but you don't know what to play, just kind of share your collections with each other.
But what if your group is like our friend Garrett, who the only thing they're all going to play is like, what would you play in funeral? Beep, beep, beep.
If you don't like music, this game obviously is not for you. It's for people with a cursory knowledge, at least, of music. But it could be. It could be anything if you're convincing enough.
How much does it go for?
It goes for only $15.
Only $15.
And there's going to be more expansions to it. They said they would like to do in the future, and there's more goals and stuff too. So.
Maybe they should make one that's like genre, so like what song, but you have to do a rock one or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Now definitely people are like, oh crud.
Yeah, it's an easy one to add to, and even to customize yourself too. So check that.
You get one that you can't play, but you have to sing it. You actually have to sing it, so you don't play the song. That would be hilarious because then you can have some people trying to sing the song and they don't know the word.
Might be a bad idea.
I think it'd be hilarious.
You might not want to hear those people sing.
Well, that's why it's only for one round.
Right. So please look below. You can find links to these Kickstarters. Otherwise, I think we have one more segment to get to.
Yeah, I believe it has something to do with our topic of the week.
Last week, the gaming website Broomstick Monkey Games had an article about innovation in games and whether or not it was necessary. And another website, Across the Board Games, had a response to it. And the subject piqued my interest, so I thought it would be a good topic for this week. Basically, the discussion is about innovation in games, whether or not that is necessary, how it helps. Is it a bad thing if a game doesn't do anything new? The argument of this article was that a game, for example, they looked at Star Wars Imperial Assault and the fact that it's basically just a refinement of Descent, which in itself is a refinement of the first edition of Descent, and there are many other examples like that, and that the games shouldn't always strive to be the newest, latest thing. that oftentimes people as gamers are looking for. And I think it's really interesting to discuss as from our perspective, but from anyone who plays a lot of board games, because it comes into the issue of the person who's played so many games, they're desperate for new mechanics, versus the people who haven't played any games and you're going to confuse them with all this new stuff. And where do you draw the line between new and old and stuff like that? So that's a big old mouthful of summary. Instant reactions from the Peanut Gallery.
I'm waiting for you to respond then.
Well, the rest of the episode will be a standoff of who responds.
Apparently, if innovation's bad, I gotta tell the chimpanzees, because we were gonna bring some chimpanzees on earlier for the show. But I think it depends, first of all, on the kind of game. In particular, I'm thinking board game versus CCG. Because CCG, in particular, because they keep coming up with multiple sets during a year. Maybe not too many, maybe a lot. They do have to throw in new mechanics and stuff. But at the same time, like you said, they don't want to turn people off.
Well, that's almost like new innovation within one game as opposed to innovation in different games.
Right. But I still want to mention it.
Yeah,
because what Magic Gathering does is a lot of keywords. In fact, it may bring back old keywords sometimes. So it's not it's sort of new for new people, but other people, it's still like seeing their old things come back. And then they used to, I don't know if they're still going to do it, but they used to do core sets, which used to be like always just standard stuff, like basic, nothing really advanced. But then every now and then they try to throw in something new, obviously, which sometimes people love, something people hated, like flipping the card, or a card would morph up face down, like weird mechanics like that. Something that would be really...
Yeah, and one of the things that the article mentions is playing cards, and how so many different kinds of card games, Magic included, they all draw from very similar... Like, even if you've never played a game, you understand the idea of drawing a card and playing and discarding, as opposed to, like, some game that threw those all out. There's definitely a point where you need a basis for people to work from.
But there comes an interesting topic in there with, like you said, certain mechanics. Certain ones are lucky or free, but certain ones... For example, tapping are copyrighted.
I don't know if you heard that. There's an avalanche behind us.
Yes. Which brings up, then you have to be innovative, not as much with the mechanic, but with the name. Like, you want people to still understand it, but not too far off.
That is an interesting one, because tapping, I don't know, I assume that did originate in Magic.
I think it did.
Concept.
Or at least it became big in Magic.
And that's certainly a mechanic.
Just because it just seems every other game seems to dance around it.
Yeah, everybody uses that now. And that's definitely that's another one of those. Well, everyone's familiar with it. Is there could people maybe do it better? There's some things that are just you should work. They work. Why fix them? They're broken.
And I think one of the games styles I'm actually thinking about in terms of whether innovation is needed or not. And I don't know. It depends on your argument. I've heard you argue both sides. Is deck building.
Well, that's a good one to mention, because in recent gaming history, that's one of the biggest new things that there has been.
No, there is, but at the same time, I feel like we've seen a lot of different versions, and I feel like you, especially, you've seen some that are just like, this is just literally the basic deck building. Like, you're not playing it for the mechanics, you're playing it because it has Batman in it or whatever the theme is.
Yeah, I definitely think that's where sometimes it can be, maybe you should have innovated a little bit. But again, on the other hand, the person who has never played a deck building game...
Well, even for me, it was not my first, but I've enjoyed it. I still enjoy the DC ones.
Right. It's more when there's the fourth and fifth time you see it.
I still enjoy the fourth and fifth time.
Okay, well...
I understand, but at the same time...
Cult of the New.
Yes. So are you arguing for innovation?
Yeah, I guess so. I will if I have to. As usual, it's the cop-out answer. But
well, no, because I think what the big issue is we have to understand, which I think the article did pretty well, and mentioning it's because the tweet that was actually mentioned in the article, innovation when needed, not I forget what the other part, because sometimes people will try to throw something in for the sake of just doing it, something new and different.
if there's something like,
and it just sort of like you don't really try it like
if your game
I'm trying to think of an example.
can deck build already, you don't need to invent something new. Just use the deck building because it's there, and then make your game good.
The Digimon card game series where like they tried to do a new thing each time and just failed miserably because it was just confusing or it made no sense, and it's just like
that's almost like I don't know.
I mean, almost anything that has a huge following afterwards, like MMOs.
That's what I was gonna say.
CCGs.
When there's one big one, everyone else has to try to come up with their twist on it.
Right, and that's when you really see this, and that's the biggest problem when innovation is bad. When someone tries so much to put their twist, but not because they think of something and they just want to see how it works out, but because they just want to make it.
Inspiration didn't strike. They had to because they wanted to be like, we're crazy and different. But then, of course, there are. I'm trying to think of like the most. Sometimes you get. Well, another good thing is to innovate, but little by little. So, for example, Dead of Winter. The Crossroads cards, we've talked about at length, where someone is reading a card on your turn and something might happen depending on what you do. A great mechanic that's feels very fresh. Most of the rest of the game draws from other familiar elements. So I think it's a good thing to have the base, and then you put in like the unique touches, or like even the dice game that we just talked about in this episode. Everyone, rolling dice, but you have to see where they go in the box this time. So I think that's the smartest way to do it. Unless you are Dominion and you have the best new idea ever, I think the way to do it is just a little piece at a time. Well,
I think before anything, always the smart thing to do is always test it.
Well, that too.
That's always a big thing. I think sometimes that's because I think we're focusing a lot on mechanics. Sometimes your innovative thing doesn't have to be the mechanic. It can just be a theme. Like I can say there's certain games we have that make and break not because they have a great mechanic, but because the theme works.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Like certain things you're like, you might I not thought this was a game, but I like it.
Yeah, that's true. As opposed to we've had our topic about farming games before. That and that often, of course, if your theme is really good, the mechanics usually follow suit.
Right.
And make sense in that universe. Yeah, so as I said, the cop-out answer is balance.
Right.
I think that's.
And
I guess if I had to pick a side, I would say innovation. I do think it's interesting. I feel like as I said, as people who play so many board games, and I think especially there's a tendency with reviewers, professional reviewers, where because they play so many games, they're just hungry for the newest thing, and that's what wins the Spiel des Jahres every year is the new thing, because even a great game that uses old mechanics just isn't as exciting anymore. It maybe isn't fair to the game.
No, I know, but we always have to remember
as a whole.
Remember, just like I'm gonna actually call that Ratatouille. Like the guy. Well, no, because remember at the end, it's the pasta from his childhood. Like the idea that like that old
spoiler alert.
Oh, shit. Sorry, spoilers for a movie that came out way long ago.
Is Ratatouille? Okay, never mind. Go on.
The tried and true should not just be thrown out because it's tried and true.
Right. Yeah. It's
like you should not just. I have to do it. If you think your idea works with a deck building game or with a dice game, go for it.
Yeah.
Don't just throw it out because no one will look at it.
Use what works in the situation. That's like you have a set of tools that exist. Make use of them.
Right, but if you're playing like we're gonna keep using deck building as a theme, just because it's the new craze. If you're playing and you're like, if there's something off and you don't know, that's when you should think about innovative. If you're playing and you're like, there's some way this is gonna be better. I'm not sure yet.
Right. Yeah.
That's a great way to know. Not because you're thinking you need to be creative, because you feel like something needs to be changed or added to make the game better, not to stand out.
Absolutely.
Not for the sole reason to stand out. I mean.
Well, I think you brought us home. I'm all tapped out for this time. So if maybe people watching at home have ideas, maybe you have some examples of games that you think did innovation really well,
or failed miserably.
Yeah, that maybe tried a little too much and shouldn't have. Let us know. You can leave a comment on the video or email us, rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And of course, there's Twitter, @rollforcrit, and our personal Twitters. And of course, you can subscribe to this video, or if you want more, there's always rollforcrit.com.
Yeah, there's videos there, there's news, and we sell games.
Many
games.
Innovative and tried and true. We got them all.
Absolutely. So definitely check that out. Great prices, great deals at rollforcrit.com. Otherwise, that's all. This episode.
I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and you've been watching the Roll for Crit podcast.